What's going on, people? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Saeed TV. We are here for another video and a big game on Sunday with extra added spice to it. And I brought an Everton fan with me, Cam from the Mighty Blues. Make sure you follow his channel. Link will be in the title. Cam, welcome to the channel first and foremost. And yeah, let them know, introduce yourself, how long you've been an Everton fan, etc., etc.
Thank you very much for having me on, first and foremost, mate. Really appreciate it. I've been an Everton fan, well, like most people, really, from the day I was born, 25 years old. I've lived 5-minute walk away from Goodison Park for my entire life. So there was never really another option. You know, growing up, my dad was always very much, you'd either support Everton or you don't watch football. You're interested in something else. So
Yeah.
obviously, I went down that route as many of us do. And yeah, I've been doing the channel for about 5 years now, 5.5 years. Obviously, the last 2 or 3 have been incredibly difficult, but we're still here, and you know we look
That's it.
forward to what will definitely be an interesting game of football on Sunday. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you know what? I was kind of nervous before going into this game because Everton ground, I've been there a couple of times, man. I've been there when we got beat 4-0. I've
Oh,
been there when it's been 1-1. You know, it's a tough ground, man. You know what I mean? You're right by the estate. It's you know what I mean? It can be a cauldron. I look at it, yeah, and I think before the game was difficult, you've been on a bit of a good form. You're winning games, you're doing here and there. I think you got a last minute winner against, was it Crystal Palace, was it? I think it was. Was it a
yeah.
draw?
Last 5 minutes. No, we won 3-2. Yeah, away
Yeah,
from home.
there you go. You know, so I was thinking it's going to be tough, but now the added incentive is you guys have got a 10-point deduction. What was your feeling when you got that 10-point deduction? First and foremost, before we go into everything else.
Obviously there was a lot of emotion, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of frustration. I think one thing that has been confused amongst fans of other football clubs over the last 7 days or so, obviously it was a week today since we had the deduction, is that you know, a lot of people I'm seeing are having the stance of, well, Everton have broken the rules, Everton have ultimately
Uh,
been caught breaking the rules, and therefore that what's the issue with them being punished? And I don't think I've seen one Evertonian as of yet, be it online doing a YouTube video or be it, you know, talking to people in the street, who have denied the fact that we've broken any form of rule or have backed the football club in the way it's being run. We have sat here for years and protested against the board that was in place during the last couple of years. Obviously, it's all changed now. You know, if you were a watcher of my channel over the last 12 months, you'll have known I've sat here and done multiple videos talking about, you know, board members, Denise Barrett-Baxendale, the owner Farhad Mashiri, you know, Bill Kenwright. Obviously, it's loads of videos talking about how these people are incapable of running the football club, and this does prove that they are and were incapable of running the football club. However, you know, this is the biggest punishment ever given to a Premier League club. 10 points deducted. You only get 9 points deducted if you entered administration. So actually, we'd have been better off going into administration, writing off all our debt. Nobody would have been paid a penny, and we'd have got less of a punishment than we've got now. And I think the biggest sort of issue amongst Blues at the moment is the punishment has to fit the crime. If you were caught, you know, walking down the street with your dog and it you know, had an accident on the corner and you just walked away and you didn't pick it up, you wouldn't get 40 years in prison. You'd get a fine and maybe a community
yeah.
letter or something. So nobody
Yeah.
is disagreeing that we've not broken the rules and we don't deserve to be punished for that. But there's a lot of mitigating circumstances, and it just feels that 10 points is a very, very heavy punishment, considering this is the first case of its, you know, of its liking. There's never been one before that, and I think fairness and obviously, you know, will the Premier League give Manchester City a 10-point deduction, 30-point deduction? Will they give it to Chelsea? No, they won't, because they need those football clubs because of how much money they bring in. So it's more of a fairness surrounding the actual punishment that I think has gotten Evertonians wild up over the last week or so than the fact that people are disagreeing that we've broke the rules. We know we've broken the rules. It's there. It's black and white. Everton have admitted that. It's more so the, you know, the punishment that is being given, for me, just doesn't fit the crime personally.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. Listen, I think the fact that you've admitted it is one thing as well, but I look at the Premier League and I think, have they just kind of almost bullied Everton, you know, in a sense of they can bully Everton, no disrespect to Everton, but Man City and Chelsea are bigger clubs, so they're thinking to themselves, hold on a minute, we might not win that battle and we might look bad. Whereas Everton would be like, you know what, we're good, we're cool with it, and etc., but we want fairness across the board.
Yeah.
And this is where Everton fans are in uproar, and it is going to be carnage on Sunday, by the way. But I just feel like for me, I'm with you. Listen, everybody United fan wants to see Manchester City get A, maybe relegate, B, deducted points, and C, any other retribution that needs to be done because we feel like there is a lot. I don't know, listen, we won't get into all of the 115 charges, but there must be something in there that's substantial for the Premier League to be like, right, let's put a case against them. Well, they have now, but in terms of let's get this done swiftly.
Yeah.
Same thing with Everton. Let's get it done. Action speaks louder than words, right? That's
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
can't.
Well, sorry, mate. Exactly. And I mean, I think the important thing is in the whole of this is fairness. And there's a lot of obviously, there's a lot of banners that will be presented on Sunday. There's a lot of flyers that will be presented on Sunday. I believe
Yeah,
a plane is flying over the Etihad tomorrow because
yeah, I
obviously it's
heard.
Sunday.
I
Yeah, yeah.
heard.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't know whether that's strictly to do with Manchester City's case. From what I've heard from the organisers of the protests or of the banners and the planes, it's because by the time we get to our game on Sunday, it will be dark. So flying a plane over a football stadium in the dark is pretty pointless.
yeah,
Nobody's
yeah,
going
yeah.
to see it. Whereas,
Pointless. Yeah, pointless.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
tomorrow it'll be
That's
light,
true.
so I think that's why they're doing that. But no, you're spot on, mate. And ultimately, there's, as I said, there's a lot of circumstances that Everton have admitted to the Premier League that have impacted the situation. Things like, a war between Russia and Ukraine, which we obviously had no part of and never seen coming. We had a lot of sponsorship money taken away from us because of that. We had the whole situation with player X, as he's called in the report, Gylfi Sigurdsson, otherwise known,
Mm,
again,
mm,
taken off of our hands
mm.
for something we had no control over, somebody that we could have potentially sold. So there's a lot
That's true.
going on at the moment that Evertonians are sort of thinking, well, hang on, what about the fairness of the whole? Again, another example is the independent commission that actually ruled Everton's 10-point deduction. Are
Yeah,
the
not the
same
Premier League. Yeah,
No, not the Premier League, no, but an independent commission which was consist of somebody who'd working at Leeds United before, an ex-Premier League football club, and somebody who'd working at West Ham United before, an ex-Premier League football club. The same commission are actually now investigating whether or not clubs should be able to receive compensation from Everton Football Club. One of those clubs being Leeds United,
wow,
and Leeds United have got somebody who's worked at the football club on the commission. So there's a lot of, there's a lot
that's
going around at
crazy,
the
man.
moment that just doesn't make any sense. But like you said, Manchester City 115 charges. Chelsea have admitted that their money situation hasn't been how it should since 2009. Well, Everton were in an FA Cup final against Chelsea in 2009. So does that mean that if they've cheated,
Mm.
Everton can be given an it's a Pandora's box. It's a big sort of situation that I think the Premier League have opened themselves to and are now probably sitting there thinking, what have we done here? This isn't great. But ultimately
It's
we'll
funny how you
see how.
say it though. It's
Yeah,
because the statement was kind of funny in the end. I found it crazy because they said we will wait for other kind
yeah.
of cases to come in
Keep
the
a
front.
keen eye. Yeah.
Fair play to Everton because they didn't just say, you know what, we accept our fine, we feel badly done by. No, they put something in there. It was like, well, we're just gonna watch other clubs as well. You know what I mean? We're gonna be seeing what energy you have for other clubs.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
feel like even Tottenham, I mean, the Tottenham default thing as well is a bit of a madness as well. And
Yeah, yeah,
FA didn't do anything about it. So listen, I was watching I don't know if you watched the overlap yesterday, and it was quite a good one with David Honesty, Gary
yeah,
Neville.
yeah.
And Gary Neville spoke very, very strongly. He said, Premier League, remember when the Super League happened? They only slapped teams with a 20 million fine. That was like 6 million each.
Yeah,
And that was
3
to
million,
destruct
3.4 million or something it was each.
3.4 million. And this
That's
was to destruct the game, the fair game that we all love, the Premier League. And it's like, if they can do that for that, and that was against the bigger so-called teams, then what are they going to do when it's these 115 charges? So, you know what, man? Like I said, man, we all are with you. Don't get me wrong. We don't like Man City, definitely, and obviously Chelsea as well. They could do well as well. So, but then again, this game on Sunday is absolutely mad. Like we didn't need this. We apparently they're calling it a 10-point deduction bounce. They're calling it now. Like you guys will be absolutely crazy. It will be madness. I don't know what you're gonna do before the game. Like, is there some sort of flares? The bus and that is that planned as well? Like,
There is a walk from. There's a couple of pubs around Goodison where Evertonians sort of meet generally before games, just to have a few pints before they go to the game. There's a
yeah,
couple of walks, marches, I think they're being called, from those pubs to the stadium. It's that. To be honest, mate, when you said to me before, what was my initial sort of reaction to it last Friday? Obviously, I went live straight away on our channel. So I had sort of 30 minutes instantly. As soon as it happened, I went live. So my instant thought was all over the internet. I had 30 minutes of ranting and raving and talking about the fairness and how
Yeah,
will we
yeah,
be
yeah,
given
yeah.
10 points, etc., etc. And then all of a sudden, I sort of thought, you know what? This could be, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, I'm not saying it's a positive thing, and I don't
Mm,
particularly buy into when I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, it's the best season to get a 10-point deduction, but that's sort of beyond the point, isn't it? You know, it might be the best season for Man City to get one, but it doesn't mean that they should get one just because it's the best season to get one. It's got to be proven. But I did think on Friday, I thought this could bring us together. This, for the first time in a number of years, could have everybody at Everton Football Club working in the same direction. For years, we've had relegation battles. The board have been so far removed from the fans. The players have been so
mm,
far removed from the fans. Different managers. Everybody has been so, sort of apart at Everton Football Club. It hasn't felt like a family. It hasn't felt like a unity. Whereas this could bring everybody together because everybody at the football club now is against the Premier League, is against the hierarchy, is against this situation. And as I said before, I understand the people saying, but it was your own board that got you into this situation. 100%, I agree. But every member of that board has now since been removed, or obviously in the sad case of Bill Kenwright unfortunately passed away. The only person
yeah.
that is still there is the owner, who we know is actively trying to be removed. So even the board now, who is made up of temporary interim appointments that will be changed anyway in the course of the next 6 months, but
Mm.
even them, they can say, well, it wasn't us. We had nothing to do with it. We were in the background. So everybody, I feel like, can be working in the same direction. And I must admit, again, and this is football, and Manchester United are also in one of the top teams in terms of the form table at the moment. And you could say it and beat us 2 or 3-0 comfortably on the weekend. But I must admit, I did think on Friday I wouldn't want to be coming to Goodison Park over the next few weeks or so, because it will just be an absolute bear pit. The banners, the pieces of card with Premier League corrupt written on them, that a load of people, pretty much the whole stadium, are going to be holding up, chanting, the crowd noise. It will be like it was sort of 15 years ago when it was an everybody against us sort of feeling. And trust me, mate, if I was you, I wouldn't be looking forward to this one.
Boy, listen, the way you're speaking now, I'm not, because again, like I said, you've been on decent form. You've got decent players who are, for me, we've been chasing as well. We will talk about as well. But I mean, you got also Sean Dyche as well, which at one point I thought was in trouble. I don't know if it's just me or people in the fan base I thought he was in trouble. But I always say to Sean Dyche, man, he's a proven manager. Yes, he got relegated with Burnley, but I just feel like, you know what? He's a guy who can galvanize a team. He's a guy who, knows when the ships are down. When the chips are down, he's a guy to kind of rally everyone up. How important has he been to you this season, Sean Dyche, in terms of that kind of like siege mentality this season?
Yeah, definitely of recent. I mean, you said there you felt at one time that he was in trouble, and you didn't really know how the Evertonians felt. I be reminded every single week that I come on our channel a couple of times over the last few months or so and spoken about how I didn't believe Sean Dyche would last the season. Obviously, we started the season
Yeah.
performing well, but not winning games of football. And my mantra with football is very simple. It's about winning games. I don't care how we win. I don't care if we win 1-0 and we're terrible, or we win 6-0 and we're brilliant. It's about winning games of football. We've had so many years of managers like Roberto Martinez who'd, we'd lose a Merseyside derby 4-0 at Anfield, and he'd come out and say, but we had more possession, so we won the second half. And it's like, no, this isn't the
Yeah.
point. The point is to win games. If Everton haven't won a trophy for 30 odd years, I'm 25 years old, I've never seen Everton win a trophy. If you were to say to me now, Cam, Everton win the Premier League next season, but it's horrible, it's boring, and you only win 1-0 every week, I'm snapping
Yeah.
your hand
Listen.
off for it. I'm
Yeah.
snapping your hand off for it all day long. So
Of course.
my issues at the start of the season with the manager were that, okay, we were performing well, but we weren't taking our
Mm.
chances. We weren't winning games. We were losing to teams like Fulham and Wolves, who, with all due respect, should have been beaten on that day. Luton beat us at Goodison. But to be fair to him, a lot of people said, be patient. The results will
Mm.
come. The performances are there. The results will come. As I said, I'm not the most patient person anyway, because we've just been through 2 years of relegation battle. So when I see us lose 3 games on the spin, or a couple of games against comfortable teams at home, I'm thinking, well, we can't be in a position where we say be patient, because we've just been in 2 relegation battles. But to be fair to him, he picked it up. He pulled it together. We've had some brilliant wins away from home this season. 3 wins in London already: Brentford, West Ham, and obviously Palace of late. Big win against Bournemouth at Goodison. Big win against Burnley in the cup. And for the last couple of weeks, I genuinely have felt, you know what, we'll be okay this season. Obviously, the points deduction, I still think we'll survive, but the points deduction changes things a little bit. But a week ago, before this news was announced, I was absolutely convinced that Everton would stay up by 15, 20 points comfortably this season, because I just think there's teams below us that won't hit those levels. Now, obviously, we've had a bit of a spanner in the works, but the performances are still there. And I do think Sean Dyche is the perfect manager, as we've just said, to galvanise everybody together, to play the whole us versus everybody now. So go out there and show it. And well, we'll see on Sunday whether or not he can do that. But yeah, we are in really, really good form at the moment, and hopefully this doesn't have a knock-on effect on that, because, you know, as I said, we've come off the back of a fantastic win last time out against Palace.
No, 100%. And like I said, you've had some, you've got a United player there, Ashley Young. I used to love Ashley Young, man. What a player he was. And he's been instrumental this season for you. Also, Amadou Dia,
Onana.
Amadou's been unbelievable. Yeah, Onana, yeah, he's been another player that I thought for me has been excellent as well. I mean, talk to me about him, because we are linked with him. I personally, for me, I'm still swayed on Onana. I don't know what it is here, but I feel like he's a good box-to-box midfielder. I think he's a tenacious midfielder. He's got energy. He's got unbelievable pressing ability. Like he's great. I just think on the ball is where he lacks for me, in my personal opinion. And I don't know if it suits us, but talk to me about Onana and what you like about him, what you dislike about him, and what you think he is for Everton in terms of what he can bring you.
Yeah, I think the important thing to remember with Amadou Onana is, he's incredibly young. So it's not like we're talking about a player, who's 25, 26, who isn't quite there yet, because then you'd start to be saying, well, is he ever going to get there? He's 22 years of age. I know he's, 6'4" and whatever, and doesn't look it, but he's 22 years of age. Before he joined Everton, I think he'd only played something like 40 professional games in his career, or 60 professional games. He'd only played one season at Lille. So, when he come to the Premier League, arguably the toughest league in the world, the most competitive league in the world, he was coming as somebody that had fairly little footballing experience as a professional. Obviously, he played through the ranks, but as a professional, fairly little. So last season was very much a, well, let's see what he can do. Let's find out. And I think with when Amadou come in last season, it was more about his potential of what he could be. It wasn't quite what he was now. It was more what he could be. 6'4", big, can hold the ball up, quite fast, can move the ball quick, good passing range. Obviously, he isn't going to put in an unbelievable Yaya Toure-esque performance every single week, or Jude Bellingham-esque, or Tony Kroos, whatever, because he's a young kid with very little experience. However, the sort of the foundations, if you like, are there for a really, really top midfielder for the next 10 15 years, if you like. He's, as I said, he's big, he's physical, he can hold the ball up, he can pass. When he strives, when he's moving with the ball, his strives are extremely positive. He's been likened to Marouane Fellaini, a little bit different to Marouane Fellaini, because I don't think he's quite as sort of forward thinking as Marouane was, certainly at Everton. But I understand in terms of his physicality, his ability to hold the ball up. When he's running with the ball, there's not going to be many players that are going to be able to knock a 6'4" fella off the ball when he's running at pace with it. So I really, really like him. I think for me, my stance with him is always, you take the rough with the smooth. Some weeks he's going to be the best player on the pitch. Other weeks he's not going to, because he's still very young. And, if he was 25, 26, you'd be looking for more consistency at his age. You have to accept that inconsistency as part of growing up and part of becoming a better footballer. I think if he was to leave Everton Football Club, I think Everton should do what every other football club does in this day and age, and say, this is the price tag, and if you don't want to pay it, he ain't going nowhere. I do think he would want to sort of take a step up at some point in the future to play Champions League or play at the top level. He's sort of hinted at that a little bit recently, that, he's had offers from clubs in European positions, but he wanted to stay and improve himself at Everton. So listen, this happens with every footballer. I think in this day and age, you would struggle to find a player that is unbelievable and is happy to stay at one club for the rest of their lives. It just doesn't really, unless they're at the best club in the world, it ain't happening. You're not getting an Aston Villa player who's the best player they've had for years, who says, yeah, I'm happy to stay. No disrespect to Aston Villa, but yeah, I'm happy to stay here for the rest of my career. They're always wanting to take that step up. Money's a motivator, all of that sort of stuff. But as I said, I think Everton's stance should very much be, this is our price tag, whatever that might be. We paid 40 odd million for him. If it's 80, if it's 100, why not? Football clubs have asked for 100.
Look at the market.
Look, exactly.
Look at the market now. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Put it this way, Rice went for 105. Yeah.
What did Lavia go for to Chelsea?
You know what? Did he go for 50
66,
million?
70,
Let me know in the
something like
comments.
that.
I think it was 50 million. I'm not quite
Amadou
sure.
Onana is a much better player than Lavia, much better player. And
Yeah,
Southampton were able to say, well, we want this price, and if you want him, you pay it. So it's important Everton start doing this. And hopefully, one thing they have learned from this sort of financial fair play situation, we all, I think even a lot of Man United fans would admit that we've been unfairly treated. But we all
yeah.
know that our finances have been mismanaged
58 million.
grossly.
58 million. It
58
was
million
58
quid.
million.
So he's
Yeah.
he's much better and more experienced, playing more football in the team more than he is. Um, but yeah, as I said, I think ultimately it's about time Everton learn from the financial mess we've been in over the last years and start saying, well, no, we've got a player there, we deem him at this value, and
Mm.
if you want to pay him, you pay the value. If not, then he stays at the football club. He's under contract at Everton. He signed the contract at Everton. He knows what ultimately what his job is. So if you want him, you pay
Mm.
this, and stop the sort of, well, yeah, all right, we'll give you
Yeah.
them a little bit cheaper, or we'll give you them for this, we'll give you them for
No,
that.
no,
No,
no.
if you want him, pay the price. And he might not necessarily be worth 100 million, but is Caicedo worth 100 million? Is Mudryk worth 80 million? Is Enzo Fernandez worth? I know these are all coming from the same football club, but is Anthony worth 80 million? Well, no, but he's
No,
worth
no,
what
no.
he's worth to the football club he's at,
Definitely
isn't
not.
he? Exactly. But
Yeah.
he was worth 80
Yeah.
million to Ajax because he's a young player come through there, and he was there,
Yeah,
one of
yeah,
their
yeah.
main sort of hitters. So they say, well, he might be worth 80 million, but to us, he's our main man, he's our star. So we've got to then go and
Mm.
replace him and find somebody else. So pay the money. And I think that's the stance that Everton need to start taking now for the future with every player. Because as you said, you have to deal in the market you're dealing in. The market's ridiculous. That's not our fault. That's just the situation that we're in.
Yeah. And you know what you talk about players who are in high demand. I mean, that Braithwaite is another one that United are looking at as
Yeah.
well in terms of centre back because Varane's not the favoured defender. Maguire will probably leave next summer. We are going to be looking for centre backs. Braithwaite is another one who, again, has come out of the blue. Is he academy player as well, Braithwaite? I'm sure
Uh,
he's
we
academy.
we signed him when he was very, very young from Carlisle, so he's not he hasn't come through Everton's academy, but he's played in Everton's academy because he was signed
Yeah,
very young. Yeah, so
yeah.
no,
I like him,
he's absolutely
It's
fantastic.
Yeah, he's another one that I think again United, could be looking at. And another one that Everton now. He reminds me a little bit. I don't know. I want to say he's John Stones, but you sold the last defender you sold that was good was John Stones, and he had a unbelievable rise in his career. And it's like it feels like one of them where you're kind of losing another John Stones. It's like it's sad, but at the same time, you know, but money has to be made, and if
Hey,
the
listen.
the right money comes in, Everton know what the situation is.
Well, that's it, and everyone's got a price tag ultimately in football. There's not one footballer that hasn't got a price tag. There's not, we saw that with Cole Palmer in the summer. I think there was a
Yeah.
lot of shock when Manchester City was so open to selling one of their young sort of talents that had
Mhm.
come through the academy, and everybody was touting him as the next Phil Foden, the next big thing. And Man
Mhm.
City just said, listen, here's his price, and if you meet that price, he will leave. And I'm sure Manchester City, Manchester United, Chelsea, all these football clubs have got prices for all of their players. I don't think there's any footballer in the world at the moment that is sort of at that point where clubs would go, no, we're not taking anything for him. It might be an inflated price.
Mm.
Liverpool might need £500 million to sell Mohamed Salah, but they would sell him for £500 million. So with
Mm.
Braithwaite, again, I'm not too worried about him at the moment. Do I think Everton will lose him at some point in the future? We don't know. We don't know. It ultimately all depends on how he continues to improve, and he has been absolutely fantastic this season playing next to James Tarkowski. He's impacted everybody else in the team. Vitaly Michalenko has been unbelievable for 6-7 weeks at left back because he's got Braithwaite next to him at left centre
Yeah.
back. But I think the Braithwaite situation is very much a good, young, talented English player that the media have then gone, right, he's got to be sold for 70 million to one of the top clubs in the country. I don't think there's as much sort of hype or interest around it as what you may read in the media. He ultimately has got to keep improving and got to keep doing what he's doing. And I always say my thing with transfers is I don't mind Everton having a player that they sell for 90, 100 million, because it means that player is fantastic at football, and that generally means that Everton are much better at football because they've got somebody in their ranks that's worth 80, 90 million pounds. So ultimately that's football. Do I think he will leave? Maybe at some point in his career. Do I think he will leave anytime soon? we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. He's got to keep, doing what he's doing, and he might turn around in the summer and go, well, I wouldn't mind staying here for another season and just getting a bit more experience under my belt. He might be offered certain incentives. They might say to him, you can be vice captain if you want, and you can stay here for another couple of years. It's football at the moment, mate. It's at that thing where you've got players that one week will come out and say, no, I'm staying here, and the next week he'll come out and say, actually, no, I want to move. So
I want to move, yeah.
It's difficult. So, but no, he's a fantastic. Again, another player who's young and raw and will make mistakes, but big, physical, fast. He's got all the attributes to be a top centre half.
Absolutely. So what do you think then on Sunday? What are you making of United? Because it's going to be a big game in terms of personalities. I mean, James Garner playing against his former club. It's so much going on. Ashley Young coming back and returning. What do you look at Man United and obviously their position, Ten Hag, and the way we're going and we're moving up the season? What's the perception of Man United as an Evertonian coming into this?
I think it's very difficult for Manchester United and any manager that Manchester United employ, because the reality of the situation is through my life as a 25-year-old, Manchester United, for the majority of that time, were the best club in this country. And it was half the time, it wasn't even debatable. You might have had the close title race with Chelsea every now and then, or a couple with City towards, the end of the 2000s, before the 2010s. But for a large part of it, Manchester United were the best team in the country, often the best team in Europe, that's how it was. And now that that's changed so drastically, and obviously you've become a side that obviously is nowhere near what you once were, different management, obviously the ownership situation going on. I think it's very difficult for any manager to step in, because the expectation at Manchester United is to win Premier League titles and to challenge at the top of the Premier League. And it's not as easy to do that when your squad of players and your situation is nowhere near what it is of a Manchester City, who are the current champions of the league. Manchester United haven't got an Erling Haaland. They haven't got a midfield that is so interchangeable. And, Manchester City could have 3 players out injured and still win the league comfortably, because their squad depth is that good. Their manager is arguably the best manager on the planet. So it is difficult, because in order for Manchester United, for me, in my opinion, to get back to that level, it's going to take 3 or 4 years of work and of management and of seeping through the bad players and the bad people at the football club. And that is a long process. That isn't something that comes in and changes overnight. It's a long process. But because of the expectation, often that long process isn't allowed to take place, because you get to a point halfway through where you go, this isn't working, let's change and go and get someone else. Do I think Ten Hag is the man to do that? I don't know. I don't know. What interests me about Manchester United is there's a lot of talk at the moment. It always feels like whenever Manchester United get brought up, it's always, they're not very good, or they're not doing well, or this, that, and the other. But I read the thing that you were top of the form table of recent 10 out of 12, something like that.
We are top of the form table, but I feel like there is a bit of context, because we kind of scrape past games. And this is where a lot of United fans are not very comfortable with where we are on the table just as yet. This next key games will decide where Man United are in terms of the table, in terms of where we feel as a team. Because I feel like Everton, Chelsea, Newcastle, tough games to go to. Then we'll see where Man United are. So this is almost like a litmus test for United. We don't like it when it's physical. We don't like it when it's intense. We've seen us when the going gets tough. We are so bad, and that is what Everton will have to do in this game. If you're going to be
right in saying that Ten Hag isn't there on Sunday? Is he banned?
You know what? That's a good shot. You know what? Yeah, you're spot on. He's not there. He's up in the stands. So it will be Van der Gaag and Steve McLaren. So you know what? I don't know if he'll help the team or won't help the team, but yeah, it's going to be one of them where he's going to have to feel it from the stands. So
as I said, for Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, go on, mate. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I just feel like it's going to be so intense. And I just know when it's my United team, they always crumble under intensity and under pressure. We've seen it so many times. When they're going against tough, it becomes so difficult. They crumble. And that's where I'm hoping we get an early goal, calm the nerves down, and then kind of hit you on the break when we need to. That's what I'm hoping for.
Like I said, as I said before, but I don't want to be the sort of the Evertonian that sits here and goes, use it in for it on Sunday, use are going to get this, because that can come back and bite me on the bottom. Do you know what I mean? Manchester United could get a couple of goals, the atmosphere could flatten down, everybody could start to be doom and gloom, and you might win the game. It's possible. But I do feel like this will be an extremely difficult day for any, whether it be Manchester United or anybody coming to Goodison, because of everything that's gone on in the last couple of weeks or so during the international break. This the first game being back. The atmosphere will be absolutely, it'll be electric. And that, to be fair, mate, you've just mentioned a really good point, and that was something that I was thinking about going into this one, is how do Manchester United cope with an atmosphere that will likely be the best it's been in a long, long time, the most frustrated it's been in a long, long time. We talk about the classic Goodison atmospheres where every touch of an opposition player is booed, every slide and challenge is cheered like a goal. That type of environment is very, very difficult to play against. And I do question the mentality of those United players. And I think if you do come away with a result on Sunday, then, that may be where it's sort of sitting back and going, do you know what? It takes a lot of mentality to be able to turn up there in that situation, in that atmosphere, and come away with a result and a performance, regardless of whether it's a 1-0, straight win, or it's a 3-0 comfortable win. It will be extremely difficult, and it's up to us as Everton fans to make it as difficult as it's ever been. I've heard a lot of, am I right in saying, I don't know much about the Manchester United fan base and stuff, but am I right in saying I've seen a lot of Manchester United fans saying that they're going to support the anti-Premier League sort of protest in terms of chanting or
You know
whatever?
what? I've not heard it, but I reckon it will be a case of, because obviously United in the past have been, you know what I mean, whatnot, aggrieved by the FA and whatnot. So I think, yeah, why not? Especially if it's against Man City,
Yeah.
we're all for that, you know what I mean? So yeah, I reckon the United fans will be in that. We're two working class
Yeah.
background teams, we're from the northwest. So for a common goal, I think United fans would be definitely up for that,
Yeah.
especially because we were marching against the Super League when the Premier League happened and whatnot. So yeah. No, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. So it'll
We'd
be
be definitely down for that.
it'll be tough. It'll be a difficult game, but it's a very it's very easy to look at this game as like a fairy tale. Oh, Man United coming to the cult,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we know football doesn't often work like that. I'm not stupid enough to sit here and go, "This is how this game is going to be played out," because this is what I think it will be. Because it could be, but it could be very different to what we all expect.
hmm
All I know is that it will be intense. The atmosphere will be intense. There will be a lot of emotion. There'll be a lot of frustration. It's the
hmm
first time any of us have ever been to any footballing game since the news had
hmm
broken. So there'll be a lot of, as I said, sort of like it was at Goodison Park 15, 20 years ago when it was David Moyes, us against everybody atmosphere. But that
hmm
doesn't necessarily mean that has any massive impact on what happens on the pitch. Ultimately, the player's job is to still go out there for us and continue our good form. And similar for you to continue your good form. I know you
Yeah,
say
yeah, yeah,
about
yeah.
scraping wins and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, I get where you're coming from. Manchester United should be a football club that I was watching Gary Neville's soccer box with me mate on Tuesday night, and it was Wayne Rooney's one, and you were beating Arsenal like 8-2.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah,
like
yeah.
it,
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
unbelievable to watch. Like, this is what this team used to be compared to what it is now. But if you do get a 1-0 win on Sunday, that, in my opinion, and I don't mean this to sound patronising, but that would be a huge result given the circumstance that you're coming into. I've heard a lot of fans saying, not just Man United fans, other fans saying, I wouldn't be wanting to go to Goodison between now and the end of the season because it'll just be
Mm,
absolutely rapid.
yeah.
But it'll be interesting. We haven't had a great record against you at Goodison of recent years. I
Mm.
know fairly recent years. I'm talking about the last 2 or 3 years. So I think Ronaldo's last goal for Man United was at Goodison, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was
Um,
the one. I think that was his last goal, and yeah, it's crazy to think that that was the last game this is last season.
yeah,
So it's
what's happened?
crazy. Yeah, exactly. What's happened? Right then, let me give you prediction time. I'm gonna go with United to win 2-1. I think it's gonna be a narrow win. Give me your prediction.
I'm gonna go with. It's difficult this because do you know what? This might be a bit mad. I could see this going. I could see us winning 1-0 and it being really tight and really tough. I'm gonna go 3-0 to Everton, only because not because I think not because I disrespect Manchester United, disregard Manchester United. But you remember you've just mentioned being there when we beat you 4-0 at Goodison. That day very much felt like the Man United players crumbled under the situation. It felt like you went
Yeah, yeah,
1-0
yeah,
down
yeah.
early on. I think De Gea made the mistake for Calvert-Lewin,
Oh my
and then
God.
you
Yeah,
you
yeah.
very much went sort of, oh, what's going to happen here? I think if Everton get an early-ish goal, the atmosphere will just rise. And listen, this might be a different Man United team. The mentality might be different. You might turn around and give us a battle. It could be, realistically, I think it's more likely going to be 1-0, 2-1 Everton. But I don't know. I've just got this feeling that Again, I'm not quite sure where the mentality is at for Manchester United. And I think if the Everton players are on board with the right, this is everyone versus us, everybody hates us, we've got to go and prove it, then it could be difficult. But it's a really difficult one. I always find these games difficult to predict because it's so easy to look. And I think a lot of people will look and go, Man United won't get nothing there, Man United won't get anything there. Look at how difficult it's going to be. But that makes it really difficult because that's not always the case. But no, I'll go reserved. I'll go 2-1 Everton. But just let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens, people. Guys, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, man. It's been a good preview. Come, let them know where they can find you. I mean, it won't be the first time we speak because we'll be linked with probably Onana and Braithwaite, so definitely bring you on next time. But let them know where they can find you, man.
Yeah, the Mighty Blues on YouTube, Everton fan channel, as I said, doing it for 5 years, do instant match reactions and player ratings straight after the videos, reviews, and when news breaks like Fridays, I do emotional live streams straight away, which probably isn't the best, to be fair, because, if you go back and watch that live stream, you'll have a laugh. But, that's I've always been very much about if something happens, go live straight away, initial thoughts. I don't really want half an hour to settle down. I want people to know.
True.
Thank you very much for having me on, mate. Really appreciate it.
No, honestly, it's been a pleasure as well, man. Big up to you, Cams. Like I said to you, people, big game on Sunday, man. Who will win? Let us know your predictions in the comments below. And we'll see you soon, guys. Take care. Bye. Peace.